We all know these icons by Jaeger-LeCoultre or Cartier, but unfortunately some of these watches are immensely expensive. But luckily there are alternatives on the market, and in this video I'd like to present you 7 pieces for every budget. So in case you really like this design language of the 20s, 30s, 40s, then this video really is for you. Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and our topic in this week is the classic tank inspired by 20s, 30s, 40s watchmaking. And as said before the intro, you can go high. You can buy your Grail watch. For example, one of my Grail watches is the Cartier Tank Americain in 18-karat gold. Unfortunately, the current price for that model is around 14,500. And I'm not ready to put that kind of money in a single watch. The next alternative is to go vintage, to buy an actual piece from a historic past, so to speak, like this Hamilton from the 50s, which you can find here and there in good condition. But 50s is another thing than 20s or 30s. If you pick up a 30s watch, let's say on eBay, then you have a big risk that this thing is unfortunately not in working order. That's a grave for your money. So in my eyes, it's the better option to buy a new vintage piece, and luckily there are so many on the market. And as said, I'd like to present you 7 watches in this video. These are my picks, and this list is by no means complete, of course. There might be many other models out there, but I'd like to focus here on these 7 pieces just to have a start. And I don't want to give you every spec of every watch, okay? This would be a video an hour long. I give you the basics and the aspect I find most appealing and most important, okay? And I give you the prices, but take this as more as a guideline because we have a bit of a chaos. Some manufacturers state in Swiss francs, the others in euros, sometimes with VAT, sometimes without VAT. Then it depends on your location, on your AD. And so these prices are rough numbers so that you know in which region we are. And please don't write a grumpy comment that these watches are not on a budget, that they're fairly expensive. I know that. I mean this on the budget in direct comparison with your Tank Americain, for example, by Cartier, that 14,500 euro watch, okay? And so, without further ado, let's begin our row here with the first watch. This first pick can serve as a prototype for the genre classic tank, because here you find nearly every typical design element, especially on the dial. Rather simple hands without loom, small seconds in a sub-dial, that ray-rolled minute track and very legible numerals. The overall design breathes the vibes of the 20s and 30s, and I think that's what many people love here. Despite the vintage look, all components are robust and modern. The watch is equipped with a sapphire crystal and an automatic movement based on the Sellita SW200. Also very typical is the case with these steps following the Art Deco style. We can imagine in there not only a watch but also one of these proud buildings that were famous for that era. The size is with a case length of 39mm and a width of 32mm, rather big. Lug width is 22. When we keep in mind that these watches were large in general because of the edgy form, then it's fair to state that the Alpina Heritage Carrée is more for larger wrists. The price is 1,450 euros or 1,595 US dollars. The second pick is very close to the Alpina, not only in alphabetic order but also by property. Alpina is part of Frederique Constant, which is part of Citizen. We're in the same tier but with some differences in functionality and design. The watch looks more luxurious. We still have the typical dial layout, but now with the date function on position 6, which delivers a nice symmetry, a nice balance. The case here measures 30mm in width and 41 in length, and also this wide lug width of 22. So overall rather big, rather contemporary in direct comparison with original watches from the 30s. Again, we have modern components like sapphire crystal and the automatic Sellita SW201 automatic movement. And again, we have these building-like steps on the high polished case and an onion crown as a nice feature borrowed from all tool watches. Available are various dial colors and a version with gold plating. The price we can consider mid-tier with 985 euros for the steel version or 1,230 US dollars. The US-based brand Hamilton has a rich tradition in watchmaking, and there are still a lot of vintage tanks out there. So in case you're in the mood for a hunt, you will find many targets, some of them outright cheap, but of course often in poor condition. A good alternative is the Hamilton American Classic Boulton, because it delivers a very unique look that stands out. Note the softer form of the case in sharp contrast to the numerals, done in sort of a grotesque font. Again, we have seconds in a sub-dial following the old pocket watch design, but the ingredients are sort of modern. Not plexi, not sapphire, but a mineral glass crystal and a quartz movement. Yes, quartz. This might be a clear downside because you will see it ticking. The case is smaller than our first two examples. It measures 27 mm in width, 31.6 in length, and only 8 mm in height. That's another very typical and nice aspect of most of these tanks. They're slender and can be worn under shirt cuffs with only little attention. The lug width of this Hamilton is 18 mm, which is very close to vintage pieces. Next to the quartz movement and the mineral glass, I see the price as a weakness. It's 775 euros and about the same amount in US dollars, and that's a lot of money for a quartz piece. But the brand, the very special look and the dimensions make it justified in my eyes to include the Hamilton American Classic Boulton in this list. We're going down now price-wise, but certainly not down when it comes to value. The Laurier Sapphire tank brings us a different look that is also borrowed from vintage pieces. We have our Dauphin hands, the railroad track, the uncluttered layout, but now in a curved tank case, which makes the watch even more elegant. The case leads us more towards the 20s than the 30s, underlined by the wheel-like crown and the reduced functionality. No date, no seconds. It wouldn't have been a problem to stuff a quartz movement inside because you cannot see anything ticking, but in fact we have there an automatic movement at work, the Miyota 9029. Laurier produces every of their models, as far as I know, with a plexiglass crystal, so all these visible parts are pretty much vintage, and I personally mark that as a plus. The watch is very moderate in size, with a width of 31 mm to 42 in length. It even wears slightly smaller because of the curved flanks of the watch and a height of only 8 mm. Worth mentioning is also the excellent fit of the strap due to the lug form, a speciality of tanks in general, where the watch head and strap often form a very organic unit. The price for the Sapphire is 494 euros or 499 US dollars. The Oris Rectangular gives us a little bit more. The size is contemporary with a case width of 25.5 mm and a length of 38, but it offers more design, more elements. First we have a date in the square window on position 6. Note here the curved corners of that window, balanced and elegant. Then we have loom on the hands and on these hour dots. Not one but two railroad tracks, a sapphire crystal and another Art Deco inspired case with nice forms on both sides. Oris is well known for exquisite finishing, and that you find here. Then we have very bold colors and straps. The lug width is slightly enlarged to 19 mm, which might create difficulties when one needs a replacement strap, but creates in this case very nice proportions. I feel that this watch is the most modern interpretation of the old 30s tank. This is supported by these colors, the comparable busy dial and the exhibition caseback that let us see an automatic ETA caliber. It's the most expensive watch in this series, around 1,700 euros or 1,950 US dollars. This watch is not long on the market and you will have a hard time to track it down, but for sentimental reasons allow me to include it here. It was my first real watch. The Tissot Heritage line brought quite some interesting models, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s. One of them was the Tissot Lisboa, named after the Portuguese capital. and it followed a certain vintage piece. Here you also see the classic tank layout with rather simple, non-loomed hands, railroad track, small crown and the seconds in the subdial. This model has a bold look and a great wrist presence because the case here measures 35mm in length and 27 in width. Lug width is 20. Note that the lugs are some sort of hinges, movable, which creates a certain look and is comfortable on the wrist. The watch is manually wound with a small ETA inside and the crystal is mineral glass. I find it overall very appealing with that champagne dial and the old Tissot logo. The Lisboa you find today used for prices between 500 and 1,500 euros or US dollars, depending a bit on the condition, the seller, the location. It was a bold move when the micro-brand Vario presented in 2022 a reversible watch, so a watch you can turn around like famous role models by Jaeger-LeCoultre and Cartier. The Vario Versa Dual Time presented actually two watches in one case displaying two time zones. The dimensions are a bit quirky with a length of 40mm including the lugs, a width of 26 and a height of 12mm. It's the highest watch in this video and that's for a reason. They must store two watches in that little block. In order to do that, Vario opted for a quartz movement made by Ronda, repairable with a power reserve of 6 years. We could see now some of these specs already as a downside, but I must say this watch brings character on the wrist. I was deeply in love with it. There is so much to explore, the colors of course, especially here where it appears very pure. Enamel, ladies and gentlemen, that's the look of enamel. But also the crown positioned on 6 is very special and of course the reverse mechanism that worked pretty well and flawless. It's by no means perfect and lacks the luxurious prestige of its most famous role model, the Cartier Basculante, but it sparkles creativity. The price for the current model is $428, so around 400 euros, and I find that reasonable taking in consideration the unique character of the watch. Okay, welcome back. And now I'm very curious, what's your favorite and more important, do you have additions to my list here? Please put them in the comments so that we can explore something we haven't seen before from you. And in case you're new here, Caseback Watches is an independent watch channel. This is not sponsored by anybody. And the foundation for this independency is our online shop casebackwatches.com, where you can purchase fine leather goods, watch straps or belts or wallets partly made with my own hands. So if you want to support this channel, then please give the video a thumb up, a subscription and visit casebackwatches.com. This is not a donation. There you will find something really valuable for your money. And that said, we are at the end of this video. Thank you very much for your attention and until next time.